itself. It's very heavy, but we have got ourselves one hell of an amazing pumpkin texture right on the surface here, and it should dry very, very smooth. And then we'll just do the other thirds of the pumpkin, top and bottom, and the face will be a little bit easier because we'll be patching on less stuff. So I will catch you after this dries, and we'll continue to work on the beach ball pumpkin. Hi, when you're doing your wormy bits on here, I'm starting to come into contact with areas of my face. And I'm trying to make sure that I leave those spots open and angled, because as soon as you come down with the brush, it is going to push that clay into the areas that you want carved out. So just make sure there's a divot there for it to smooth down, but not to shove into the area that you later want to carve. When you get to your facial sections and you start adding your strips up along them, what you're pretty much trying to do here is kind of color in the dotted line with clay. So I've taken this section here and I've just gone up to the eye, then started again here, gone to the edge of the tooth, and so on and so forth. So again, when you hit those facial sections, you're just putting the clay in and leaving your open areas there. What you're going to do is texture all this pumpkin wise, and then afterwards we're going to bulk up areas of our face to complete the sculpt. Alright, in doing a little bit of experimentation yesterday, I discovered a trick to doing the grooving a little bit better. Because what I initially did was I did deep grooves and shallow grooves and painted them both at once. The longer you paint shallow grooves, the more they fade. So what I'm doing now, for the benefit of the order, is I do my deep grooves and then I paint down and smooth. And then I do my shallow grooves and then I do a lighter paint down and smooth after, so that the shallower grooves still show up pretty well. Case in point, I've just done this section on the pumpkin. I put in all the deep grooves with my pencil, and I'm going to go ahead and smooth them down with my sauce. And then afterwards, I'm going to put in the shallow grooves and give them a smooth, and we'll take a look at how that looks. All my deep grooves are in, and they're all smoothed down. Now I'm going to take my little butter knife equivalent here, and I'm going to put in my shallow grooves, and then I'm going to give that another quick paint down. Now across this board, this gives us a really nice pumpkin texture all the way through. I give the second paint down with the lighter grooves a lighter paint down. They don't need as much to get joined up and look good. And the only other thing to consider now is that I've got some spots that are part of the carve. I'm not going to worry about the texture too much on here, but the only thing I do want to make sure of is there's no glaring gaps. So I'm just going to make sure that's smoothed down into my carved area. Just a little finger push. Being very careful this thing doesn't tip, because when they get to this stage, this tends to be one of the problems. And right here, that's part of my lower jaw, and up here is part of my upper jaw. I'm just going to give it a little push down so there's no glaring gaps, and I'll do any kind of important texturing in there later on after this is completely set and sealed. So that's about how that looks when it's pushed down and set. And now I'm going to let this guy dry for a bit, because one of the downsides with this method is you can only go so far, and you really have to watch the weight distribution, especially if you have a larger pumpkin, because these guys can get wobbled off if you don't have a large enough circumference base to hold them. And over time, yeah, they just get tippy. It might also appear sometimes that you have a larger section here where you've just started, and if that's the case and you don't like how these are matching up, just grab your brush and give this thing a smooth down until you spread it out enough that it really starts to blend in with the work you've already done. I'm really not too worried at all here. I've seen pumpkins out there that have crazy bumps all over the place. But in the end, we'll get a nice pumpkin texture the whole way around, and this thing will continue to turn out awesome. So let's let this guy dry, and I'll pick you up after that happens. Alright, so I've got the face pretty much covered, and just like I did with the last times, I've done all the deep grooves and I painted it down. Now I'm going to use my butter knife equivalent. I'm going to do the tiny grooves and then give them a lighter paint down so we get some nice pumpkin texture the whole way through.